house prices are plummeting in these American cities. I mean, I never thought I'd be saying that sentence, because house prices, it just feels like are going in one direction. It just feels like every time you look at the news or if you're looking to buy a house or rent, the price is just going up and up and up. So I'm really interested to see if these cities are in like desirable like places, or if it's, those really sort of, out of the way, away from the job type places.
Real estate prices are climbing, leaving many Americans with crushed dreams of owning a home. But I have good news for you. Sort of. Some cities in the United States have home prices that are actually on the decline. Now, I say sort of because a few of these cities might not be the best places to live, while a couple were way too expensive before they started going down, so they've got a ways to go before they would be considered a great deal. In this video, I'm going to show you 9 cities and show you their average home value in 2022 versus where they stand today in the first quarter of 2025. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look.
Let's go. South Carolina. Okay. I've heard the food is good in South Carolina. The barbecue.
Number 9, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Myrtle Beach, where golf carts are considered legitimate transportation and miniature golf courses outnumber grocery stores. But despite the palm trees and the retirement dreams, real estate prices are taking a bit of a nosedive lately. Why? Well, first off, it's the good old-fashioned supply and demand tango. Over the past few years, developers went a little wild throwing up condos and beach houses like they were in a race for who could block the ocean view the fastest. Now there's an oversupply of homes sitting on the market longer than tourists in a sunburn recovery room, with more listings than interested buyers. Sellers are now dropping prices just to stay in the game. Then there's the fact that insurance costs are going up faster than a tourist's cholesterol at an all-you-can-eat seafood buffet. Flood insurance, hurricane insurance, and just general coastal living expenses are scaring off potential buyers, especially retirees on a fixed income who were already stretching their budgets to live out the Jimmy Buffett fantasy. Add in the rising property taxes and maintenance costs of salt air living, and suddenly the idea of buying a bungalow doesn't seem as relaxing as it looks on HGTV. And let's not forget the economy doing its weird little dance right now. High interest rates are putting the brakes on a lot of people who were thinking about relocating or buying a second home.
Although I have to say, living along this coastline, this beach right here would be amazing. Like for me, like I would love to be able to just go for a run in the morning along the beach. How beautiful would that be? I'd live here. I would live here.
Combine that with a few headlines about crime upticks in the Myrtle Beach area and the not-so-charming off-sea lull, where the place turns into a ghost town with better seafood, and it's no wonder Myrtle Beach real estate is feeling the chill. So while it's a nice place to visit, retiring here or just living here might not be the best option, unless you got the money to start cashing in on some of these lower real estate prices. In 2022, the average home value in Myrtle Beach was $305,229. In 2025, it's $299,167 on average. That's a drop of about 2.01%. Now, that's not a lot, but considering just about every other place in the United States, their real estate prices are going up, it's kind of a big deal. And it's just the beginning.
I mean, 6K, it's not a huge amount of money, but 6K is still 6K. And, depending on how desperate the seller is, like if he's had that property, on his hands for, a year, you could probably get an additional, discount on the property. So, and again, living on the beach, I think that would be perfect. As long as there's obviously like jobs and stuff. Like, are there, there must be jobs and stuff in South Carolina for sure. Memphis, Tennessee.
Number 8, Memphis, Tennessee. Ah, Memphis, home of Elvis, barbecue, and now plummeting real estate prices. Yep, you heard that right. While the rest of the country is trying to outbid each other for houses that come with a cracked foundation and a charming 1970s wallpaper, Memphis is bucking the trend. Prices are on the decline. And it's not because the housing fairy sprinkled affordability dust on the city. It's because demand is down, inventory is up, and people are realizing that a decent house with 4 walls and indoor plumbing isn't worth the chaos of high mortgage rates and high insurance rates. When fewer people are buying and more people are selling, prices slide faster than a kid on a slip and slide. And the slip and slide? Years ago, I got my kids one. Boys, that thing changed. They had a little pool of water that worked out as a braking system. Remember our braking system? It was the driveway normally. My nipples never grew back. Now let's talk about the not so sexy side of Memphis.
I will say Memphis looks a lot more developed, than I thought it would be. For some reason in my mind, I just thought Memphis, Tennessee would be, very rural, not a lot of tall buildings. I don't know why I had that idea. Maybe it's just because of, the name sounds super southern to me. But, I mean, this looks fairly developed.
Crime and job insecurity. It's no secret that some parts of Memphis have had a long-standing relationship with bad crime stats. And lately, that's not exactly boosting their real estate brochure. Add in some economic uncertainty and layoffs in certain sectors, and you've got a recipe for fewer folks moving in and more locals second-guessing if they should just cash out and head for the hills, or at least the suburbs. People want safe neighborhoods and stable incomes. If either one starts to wobble, real estate takes a serious hit. And that is exactly what's going on in Memphis right now. Memphis was once a great city, but no matter what good is going on there right now, their crime stats it's horrible. In 2022, the average home value in Memphis, Tennessee was $277,085. In 2025, that number's dropped down to $264,572 on average. That's about a drop of 4.62%.
Wow, is the crime in Memphis that bad? Is it how bad is it? Any residents of Memphis, Tennessee, do you guys have to be extra careful, with your car? You can't park it in certain areas. You've got to triple check if you've locked your door behind you when you leave your house. Is it that bad or is it a slight exaggeration? I mean, $13,000 drop is actually, that's quite a lot of money, $13,000.
Number 7, Jacksonville, Florida. Well, folks, Jacksonville, Florida, home of bridges, Navy ships, and humidity that could suffocate a cactus, is seeing a real estate cool down, and it's not the refreshing kind. Prices are dropping, and it's not just because someone finally realized that 90-degree Decembers aren't that charming after all. One big reason is the old supply and demand. During the pandemic boom, everyone and their cousin Larry decided that Jacksonville was the place to be. Builders overbuilt, flippers overflipped, and now, what do you got? There's way more inventory than interested buyers. It's like showing up at a potluck and 12 people brought potato salad. Eventually, people are going to lose interest. Finally, Jacksonville isn't immune from a broader economic funk. Job growth has slowed a bit, not much, but enough, especially in sectors like tech and finance.
Yes, I mean, here in the UK, I think it's a similar story in America. Tech is getting hammered. I've got a friend who's been looking for, software engineer, been in the game for 4 or 5 years, can't find a job right now. It is just, and some people say AI is taking jobs. I don't think it is at a wide scale just yet, but it's probably impacting the market. Is it a similar thing in America? I think it is, to be fair. Because, I mean, usually a software engineer with his experience gets snapped up really quickly. But yeah, and not just software, a lot of people. Are you finding any job seekers watching this? Do you feel like the job market is worse than it has been in previous sort of job cycles or years?
Of course, insurance costs are skyrocketing across Florida. Home insurance in Florida is becoming a cruel joke. Nobody's laughing at it. Combine that with inflation and the rising cost of literally everything, and people are pulling back. So while Jacksonville still has its river views, sprawling suburbs, and the occasional meth gator showing up on shore, the real estate market is definitely hitting the brakes. And for once, it's not because of I-95 traffic.
I mean, this looks beautiful again. Any sort of location that's so close to the beach, because I've never lived close to a beach, for me, this would just because if you live here, you are 5 minutes away from the beach, man. That's just beautiful.
In 2022, the average home value in Jacksonville was $299,348, and in 2025, it's $284,504. That's a drop of about 5.80%. We'll keep going after a brief message from today's sponsor, Aura.com/Briggs. Back to the video.
San Antonio. Wow.
Number 6, San Antonio. San Antonio real estate prices are taking a little bit of a dip, and no, it's not because the Alamo suddenly lost its curb appeal. This is another place where that good old supply and demand thing happened. Builders went a bit wild during the pandemic housing boom, thinking that every Californian was gonna pack up and head to San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube, I remember during the pandemic, it felt like every time I went on YouTube, it was about some celebrity leaving California and moving to Texas. Do you remember that? Like, apparently everybody was leaving California and moving. And I do think a lot did, to be fair.
They didn't. A lot did, but not enough. Now they got a surplus of homes, especially in the suburbs, and not enough eager buyers. Another reason, just like everyone else, interest rates. While they're not exactly breaking records, they've been floating high enough to scare off a lot of potential buyers.
This is nice. This looks a bit like Venice, this little canal. Yeah.
People aren't too thrilled about locking into a 7% mortgage rate just to live near a Whataburger.
7%.
Even investors are tapping the brakes on San Antonio, mostly because a lot of them overpaid during the 2021 frenzy. Finally, let's not ignore the economic weirdness. Inflation hasn't packed its bags yet, and while job growth in San Antonio is decent, wages aren't exactly keeping pace with the cost of living. It's a big problem in a lot of Texas cities right now. People are getting priced out or just saying screw it and renting until things calm down. Plus, with property taxes doing their best to impersonate a person that's addicted to something, owning a home in San Antonio isn't the no-brainer it used to be. The city still is a great place to live, but if you're selling, you might want to brace yourself for some lowball offers and awkward silence after you have an open house. The average home value in San Antonio in 2022 was $267,387. In 2025, it dropped all the way down to
Jesus, 17K. Oh, I mean, great thing for buyers, I suppose. If you're looking to relocate to Texas, I mean, great time to be looking at San Antonio. That's so surprising.
$50,672. That's a drop of about 6.45%.
Because, yeah, like Texas, do you remember like the hype? Everybody was moving to Texas. Like, but I suppose, you know, like the interest rates are really high right now. I mean, they were higher a year ago, but they're still quite high. So the cost of borrowing is really high, isn't it? But is San Antonio as attractive as Dallas and Houston and Austin? Like, if you were moving, let's say, if you were me, right, and you were going to move to Texas, where would you move out of the four places? Out of San Antonio, Austin, Houston, and Dallas, where would you go to?
Number 5, Denver, Colorado. All right, let's talk about why the real estate prices in Denver are starting to slide down the mountain. For years, Denver was the darling of the West. People were tripping over each other to move there for their legalized substances, their tech jobs, and a bunch of overpriced avocado toast. But now, the bubble's starting to deflate. The population boom has slowed down, and remote work means people don't have to cram into Denver's $800,000 bungalows just to be near the office. Turns out, people don't like paying $500,000 or 900 square feet with a mountain view that you have to step on a step ladder on your balcony to see the top of. Next, let's talk about the real estate developers. Those optimistic folks who slap their condos up like they're playing SimCity on easy mode. Well, during the housing frenzy, everyone thought that they could get rich selling glorified closets. But when supply goes up and demand goes meh, prices drop, as we've already learned. And of course, they're suffering from the same problems everyone else is. Interest rates are up, taxes are going up, the Broncos aren't as popular as they once were. You know, all the things that stop people from buying a home. Denver's starting to sound less like a dream and more like a financial horror movie. Buyers are backing off and sellers are starting to panic. Just a little bit, but it'll pick up, trust me. You could smell the desperation in those freshly baked cookies at open houses. Finally, the vibe of the city has changed. Denver's charm took a hit thanks to rising crime, traffic congestion, and the ever-growing homeless population. Yeah, that takes a toll on housing prices and desirability. In 2022, the average home value in Denver, Colorado was $591,663.
Wow, Denver's really expensive. I had no clue. I thought the prices there would be sort of kind of similar to Texas. I don't know why I thought that, but because they kind of have a similar kind of vibe. Wow, $600K, the average property price.
In 2025, that had dropped down to $552,061. That's a drop of about 6.93%. This is one of those places that was a little too overpriced to start with, so even though it's taken a hit, it's still pretty expensive.
What is causing the homelessness issue, not just in Denver, but everywhere in America? Like, would you say it's mainly like find difficulty finding jobs? Because I thought America, like finding a job, like if you didn't have any sort of like requirements, like I have to work in this sector or that sector, I thought it was fairly easy to find a job. Like, what is it? Is it drugs? Sorry if I sound super naive right now, but I know it's a really complicated problem and it seems to be getting worse, not only in America, but over here. Like the amount of homeless people I see now in London has definitely gone up. Definitely.
Number 4, Fort Myers, Florida. Ah, yes, Fort Myers, Florida, land of palm trees, retirees, and now plummeting real estate prices. What a plot twist. You'd think with all the sunshine and beachfront property, prices would be going up. No.
What a gorgeous place, though. This is undeniably stunning, man. Look at this. If I could teleport, I'd be here in an instant.
Not down, but nope. The real estate market in Fort Myers has taken a nosedive like a snowbird forgetting how brakes work. One major culprit, overbuilding like so many other places. During the pandemic, everyone got in their head that they were going to start building homes, as many as they could, especially in the suburbs, because as remote work started picking up, people were moving to the suburbs. Doesn't help that almost every new development in Florida is a gated community. Just because they have that gate out front, the price rises and a lot of people get priced out of the neighborhood or the new neighborhood. Of course, like every place in Florida, they're suffering terribly by insurance companies. A lot of insurance companies have backed out of Florida and it's turned into a big nightmare. The prices have gone through the roof. Yeah, that's why a lot more people are moving to South Carolina.
I love how some Americans say roof. Like we say roof. Roof, kind of like a dog. Roof. Do you say roof or roof?
And Georgia than ever before. I should say people that were planning on going to Florida are now choosing South Carolina and Georgia at a higher rate than ever before. People in Florida right now are going, I could buy a house, get insurance, or I could buy a house and a boat in South Carolina. The average home value in 2022 in Fort Myers, Florida was $342,598. In 2025, that dropped down to $371,349. That's a drop of about 8.06%.
Getting close to 10. Amazing place to live, though. I mean, I know all of it won't look like that, but if most of it does, give me that.
Number 3, Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham was once dubbed the Magic City for its explosive growth during the Iron Boom. Well, it's now experienced a little magic trick of its own, disappearing home values. That's right, real estate prices in Birmingham are on the slow, steady slide down a mountain of market optimism. Why? For starters, population growth in Birmingham has pretty much flattened like a pancake in recent years. Fewer people are moving in, meaning fewer folks are fighting over houses. Add in a job market that's not exactly setting the world on fire, and suddenly that fixer-upper you bought in 2022 is looking like not such a wise investment. And of course, just like every place else, which I've mentioned on almost all of them, mortgage rates are through the roof right now. Not the highest they've ever been, but they ain't great. We all got spoiled back around 2020, 2021 with super low mortgage rates, but now, surprise, surprise, it's like they got a rug pull on us. When borrowing money gets expensive, buyers are picky, and picky buyers in a soft job market equals a whole lot of for sale signs sitting around collecting pollen. Sellers who thought they could just slap a coat of paint on a 1960s ranch and get bidding wars going are learning the hard way that today's buyer actually expects things like modern plumbing and wiring that doesn't spark up when you flip a light switch.
I mean, and that's totally fair. If you're going to be dropping the kind of money that they're asking for, I mean, at least give people, like give people a house that has everything working already.
So besides mortgage rates, and they did a little overbuilding, and too many people came in for fixer-uppers when rates were really low, you also got pretty bad crime in Birmingham. And of course, that's going to drive down prices. Bad crime, bad stats in general, especially schools these days. That drives the price down pretty good. But even though the prices are dropping, people aren't buying in Birmingham right now. In 2022, the average home value in Birmingham, Alabama was
$143,000. Wow.
$43,240. It's $125,944. That's a drop of almost 13% at 12.85%. That's brutal.
Gosh, still being able to buy a house for $143K, Unreal. Unreal. And I know that, it's that price for a reason, but still. Nolans.
Number 2, New Orleans. New Orleans, home of jazz, Mardi Gras, and dropping real estate prices. What gives? Well, for starters, the city's infrastructure has all the charm of a 100-year-old shotgun house, and unfortunately, about the same level of maintenance. People are getting kind of tired of dodging potholes that are getting big enough to swallow a Cybertruck whole.
Man, honestly, potholes are one of the worst things about driving. It's like you buy this nice new car and, you're on the motorway or whatever doing 40 mile an hour and then...
Add in the constant threat of flooding every time they get a drizzle,
annoying.
And suddenly that historic fixer-upper loses some of its quirky appeal. Let's be honest, no one wants to pay top dollar for a house that might double as a floating device. Then there's the crime. Yep, New Orleans has some serious crime issues when it comes to keeping things safe and sound. The crime rates are high, and not just, oops, someone stole something off my porch high. We're talking about actual violent crimes, a lot of them. It's gotten to the point where even the tourists are reading the fine print on their travel insurance. If potential home buyers are looking for a nice loft in the French Quarter and know that there's an extremely high chance that you'll get broken into or at least mugged, you're going to head to the suburbs. Of course, you got hurricanes, rising sea levels, and the general mood that Mother Nature hates New Orleans these days. Insurance premiums are skyrocketing, and some companies are just packing up and leaving. No insurance means no mortgage approval, so unless you're a cash buyer with a thing for gambling, you probably want to look elsewhere, even though the prices are dropping drastically. In 2022, the average home value in New Orleans was $277,373. In 2025, that has dropped to $200,000.
Whoa! Holy smokes. Goodness me, that is like a 20%, almost 15-20% drop. That is insane.
$32,843. That's a drop of 17.46%.
God, that is wild. Is it that bad in New Orleans? Anyone watching here that's from New Orleans, has been to New Orleans recently, has family or friends there, is it that bad? Like, has it gotten that much worse in the last 3 years? Because that is a massive drop. Wow.
All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to one of these cities or any city in the United States, there's a link in the description area for a website called Home and Money. They can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. All right, on to number 1.
Austin. I'm super surprised. Austin. I thought it was so attractive.
Number 1, Austin, Texas. Once the golden child of the housing boom, now is the kid who brought a kazoo to a jazz concert. Real estate prices are dropping faster than your favorite local food truck's Yelp rating after going mainstream. A big reason for this? Too many people showed up too fast. During the pandemic, the city was flooded with remote workers, tech bros, and anyone who thought about buying a bungalow for $900,000 with a patch of grass was a great idea. Demand spiked, prices soared, and builders overbuilt, thinking this party would never end. Spoiler alert, it ended. And someone left their emotional support dog behind. With mortgage rates climbing higher than a South Congress rent check, buyers started tapping out. Suddenly that dream of owning a tiny home with that rustic charm and a composting toilet doesn't look so appealing when your monthly payment rivals a Ferrari lease. People are either waiting to see if it gets better or they're moving someplace else that's more affordable, and it's not trying to be the next Silicon Valley with live music. Finally, we've got a classic case of tech whiplash. All those startups and big tech companies that set up shop in Austin, it turns out they're not recession-proof. Layoffs, hiring freezes, and cost-cutting measures, translation, firing people and calling it innovation, have put a dent in the consumer confidence.
Yeah, that's a big issue, to be fair. If there's no jobs, then...
Fewer jobs means fewer people looking to buy homes, which means more listings are just sitting there. Sellers start dropping the prices, and boy have they in Austin, Texas. In 2022, the average home value was $650,347.
Wow, that's a lot. $650.
In 2025, it's $517,000.
Oh, it's 20%.
$1,589. That is a drop of 22.73%.
Whoa.
Brutal.
Oh my God. Jeez, Austin. Yeah, I mean, anybody who bought a property in Austin, 2-3 years ago. Like, what do you think now of the prices? Because I mean, I hope that you didn't buy it. Like, I hope you got a good deal on your property. Man, I do think it's a bit of a shame when companies lure people to an area and then that job is non-existent anymore, because you're gonna have to either relocate or hopefully get a remote job so you can stay, that pays you the same or close to what you had in the original job. I'm really surprised at some of these locations. I thought Texas was still like, being flooded into, loads of people moving in because it's, cheaper than like the neighboring states. But yeah, really surprised to see Austin at #1, and especially like that drop in the average price. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.